So are you as dismayed as I am that it is the first of, that it's almost 2014? I'm just freaked out. I mean, it was like a week ago we were celebrating Happy New Year 2013, and it's gone. It was like a very short year, a very, very short year, and it feels like the pace of life for all of us just continues to speed up and up and up and up and up. And we've all become electronified, of course. So we have our smartphones and our iPads and we text each other, and it just makes it faster and faster and faster. It's an interesting phenomenon, and I find it very ironic that I schedule my prayer and meditation time on my cell phone, on my smartphone, and that I send myself a text to remind myself to take a deep breath occasionally. You know, it's ironic, but we live in an electronic age, ironically called the age of communication. I'm not sure that those two go together. Because I don't know about you, but I see myself and a lot of other people not having time even for a phone call. I'll just text because it's quicker, right? We certainly don't have very much time for face-to-face sit-downs. And this is not a new issue, but I think that the intensity of it is greater now than ever before. I read an article from 1886, and in it William Smith Morley wrote, "The dreamy, quiet old days are over, for men now live and think and work at express speed." This is 1886. "They have their Mercury or Post laid on their breakfast table in the early morning, and if they are too hurried to snatch from it the news during that meal, they carry it off, to be sulkily read as they travel, leaving them no time to talk with the friend who may share the compartment with them." On the train, of course. And there was another article from 1895 in a magazine called The Churchman, and I love this. "The existence of mental and nervous degeneration among a growing class of people is characterized by a brain incapable of normal working, in large measure due to the hurry and excitement of modern life. With its facilities for rapid locomotion and almost instantaneous communication between remote parts of the globe." In 1895, remember that rapid locomotion was the steam engine train, and that the telegraph was the means of global communication. Jet planes didn't come about till the mid-1950s. So we would call that life sleepy. But even then they were worried about this issue of not being able to keep up. And it seems to me that our society expects more and more and more of us in less and less and less time. And we expect it of ourselves because we've been raised up in this idea, this cultural agreement that being very, very busy is a good thing. Being overly busy is a good thing. But we do our work faster, we do our relationships faster, we do everything faster. And we wind up cutting things out of our lives that are actually very good for us, very beneficial for us. For example, the number one reason I hear from people when I ask them, "Do you meditate?" and they say no, they say, "I just can't sit still." Or, "I can't shut my head down." Those two things are the fruit of meditation practice, not the necessary precursor to it. If you put your butt on the chair, you're successful, and over time your mind will quiet down, and over time you'll be able to sit still for longer and longer periods. But we don't have time. How many of us take half an hour a day to meditate? 10 minutes a day. How many of us do that on a regular basis? It's a difficult thing to carve out that time. Our busyness, I think, as a culture, and our inability to take time for things like prayer and meditation and relationship, face-to-face relationship with others, I think it comes out of a sense of meaninglessness. And again, it's a chicken and an egg thing, and we've got it backwards. First of all, in most of our work, we don't really produce something we can look at and say, "I made that," and send it on, because our country doesn't manufacture much anymore. We deal in information. that travels very quickly and in service. And the pace of that technological advance makes someone's job redundant like all the time, right? Every minute you're hearing about technology replacing some human being that used to do the job. And I think also in the West we've been in the grip of the scientific paradigm for 400 years, and matters of the soul have been placed on the back burner and not given the attention that they deserve. Don't get me wrong, my undergraduate degree was in biology, and I firmly believe in evolution and all those other scientific things. I really, truly do. But I see that there is a big gap in the way we think about the world, because spirit can't be measured. And so as a culture, we've decided it's not as important because we can't measure it. We can't put numbers to it. So some of the deeper meaning of life gets ignored. And our deepest questions maybe don't get answered or even brought up. We feel like, therefore, we don't know our purpose. We don't have a reason for being that we can see. Maybe we feel like we don't matter, or maybe we feel like we aren't contributing, or maybe we feel a lack of meaning because we don't take time to do the things that give life meaning. There's the chicken and egg again. When we don't do the things that give life meaning, we feel meaningless, and so we try to fill it up with busyness. And I think as a culture, that's kind of what we've done. Being busy helps you not think about the meaninglessness. Being too busy has become just our way of life. It's just our way of life. Something that the culture expects of us, and therefore we expect it of ourselves. Kids are busy. They used to come home from school, and I had like from 3:30 till dinner time to go out in the field and look at bugs and, wander around outside in nature. And kids now are like scheduled, and they have a lot going on. And it's no wonder they're tired. We're all tired. We're all tired because all we do is move forward at a very rapid pace. We're stressed out. And when someone asks us how we are, we say, I'm very, very busy. It's a badge of honor. If you said, I'm great, I'm not doing anything, people would look at you like, what's wrong with you? It's a badge of honor to be too busy, isn't it? And so we neglect the inner listening. That's so important. That's so important for us. We also get hypnotized by the pace of our life. And because we don't interact with other people in meaningful ways a lot, we get very insular and afraid of people who we don't know, or people who are not like us. And so we don't really, I think, learn, ponder, ask those deep questions. Like, why am I here? What is my place in this universe? What is my relationship with that creative power? What's been going on inside of me all these years that I haven't taken stock of because I've been too busy? How have I been changed by life? I believe that we learn through doing life, but we learn it deeply when we take a minute to look at it and say, what am I learning? What have I learned? What changes have been wrought by life? I also read a couple of polls last week that said that most Americans believe that their fellow Americans are more rude than they have ever been. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I have noticed that you rarely get a please or a thank you anymore. You might get no problem when you pay your bill. I hope it's not a problem to take my money. If so, we're in trouble, right? If I want to buy something and I'm happy to pay for it, it shouldn't be a problem for you to sell it to me. You might get it, no problem, but that's about it. And people barge through doors and never look behind them to see if they're slamming the door in someone else's face. I love to watch people when they're driving, because driving is one of my spiritual practices. And I love to watch the people who will, if there's a lane that's closed on the freeway, there are always people who will zoom up the side and try and barge in at the last minute. And then there are people who refuse to let any of them in. I'm not letting that guy in. There's no way. And so there's this little war going on at, half a mile an hour or something. And it happens every single time. We're pretty angry with each other at anybody who gets in our way, frankly, who gets in the way of our busyness, right? Who gets in the way of our getting there on time. So we get pretty obsessed with our own doing. And then there's texting. Texting is an interesting animal. I have a friend who gets really upset at his kids because they sit at the dinner table and, the phone's under the table, so they pretend like their dad can't tell what they're doing, but they never look up because they're doing this. They're texting with their friends through the whole meal. And that same man has a daughter whose boyfriend broke up with her via text message. That's the rudest thing I've ever heard. To break up with somebody via text message. Wow. I mean, they've been dating for a couple of years and he sends her a text message. How cold. How cold is that? I wonder if we're losing the art of polite conversation due to texting. That whole idea that you could dump someone by text message reflects such a lack of basic understanding of how people are and how people feel that it just amazes me. And I actually found a study about texting and its influence on how we live that was done at MIT by a woman named Sherry Turkle. And she said in the beginning that she thinks learning how to have conversations teaches kids to have conversations with themselves. Those deep conversations like self-reflection and thinking and reasoning and learning how to put things together, which is pretty bedrock stuff in being a human being, isn't it? I mean, it really is. And she talks about this texted apology as an example. When you've really screwed up and you go, I'm sorry, click. But you never see the person, you never hear their voice, you never talk to them. So much is lost in that. She says, a full-scale apology means, I know I've hurt you. I get to see it in your eyes. And you get to see that I'm uncomfortable, and that with that, the compassion response kicks in on both sides. There's compassion. She said there's a whole lot of steps in an apology that are growthful, and we bypass them when we text, I'm sorry, and hit send. Part of the appeal of texting is that it minimizes the pain, but the pain is the point. The pain that we cause another person, or the pain that we see in them when we're apologizing, teaches us something. And our discomfort and pain teaches them something. Turkle says, those things are what lead to better relationships. The complexity and messiness of human communication gets shortchanged, and we miss out on the growth that leads to better relationships. And I'm a great texter, and I love to avoid pain. So I was thinking, how does this apply to my spiritual life? And obviously, one of the things we're here to do is learn how to love each other, how to treat each other with absolute love and kindness. And all of these things can chip away at our ability to do that because we forget that there's another person out there. We kind of get all caught up in our own lives and forget that the person reading the text feels just like us when we get up on those days when we don't feel like we're enough, or feels just like us when we're sad, or maybe we've lost a pet and we're in deep grief or something. And when you get a texted message, it's simply lacks the same kind of impact as when someone comes up and puts their arms around you and says, I'm really sorry about your dog, or I'm really sorry about your mother, or whatever the situation is. I think we become less able to be loving and kind. And that's what we've been talking about for the last couple of months. I think it is very important as spiritual beings that we learn to be the master of technology rather than to be mastered by it. And it's very seductive. Oh, Lord, have I spent way too many hours on Facebook. Because I go to one story and then to another story and then to another story and then to another story, and I look up and I've been there for 4 hours when I sat down to post something on the Facebook page, It's amazing. Or I get stuck in Netflix or any number of places. It's very easy. And we need to learn to use technology but not live by it. The same way we have to learn to master our egos and not be lived by our ego. And I think we have to be able to carve out time in these busy, busy, busy electronified lives for Sabbath. for time in which we reflect, for time in which we just are without doing anything, for time when we can look at when we behaved really well and when maybe we didn't behave the way we wanted to, and what's there to learn from that, for time to listen to our deepest self. And society won't give us that time, and our electronic gadgets won't give us that time, and our jobs won't give us that time. We have to give it to ourselves, which of course means we have to push Sabbath time up higher on the list. It has to be ahead of the Facebook time for me, ahead of the Netflix time, ahead of some of those kinds of things. And we might even have to use our electronic tools to schedule it. But if we do whatever it takes to give ourselves a day a week, a half a day a week, 2 hours in the morning, an hour in the morning, a half hour in the morning, it doesn't matter. Some slice of time that's dedicated absolutely to us and our interior life, that's dedicated to us and our relationship with the universe, that's dedicated to us to listen to find out what that inner voice is trying to tell us. And the why, I think, is in today's reading from the Pali Canon, which is the recording in Pali of the Buddha's sayings. The power of loving kindness is the greatest power we have for the deliverance of our heart. And I think what the Buddha meant by that was the deliverance of our heart from all the worldly concerns, and the ability of the heart to simply be what it came here to be: love, kindness, acceptance, compassion. So the deliverance, as the Buddha said, is greater from loving kindness than from anything we could do in the world, from any task we might do, from any job we're tied to, from any electronic gadget that there might be. If we can just make a little bit of time to ask ourselves the big questions and ponder them and listen to what our inside, our deepest self tells us about them. A little bit of time to sort of commune with the infinite and to listen for what our highest vision is. What is the highest vision for my life? Not just what my electronics will give me, but there's something here that I'm to give because only I can. And of course, we all have the same 24 hours, every one of us, although I know I think some people have more time than I do. It's an impossibility, isn't it? Unless someone's coming in the night and messing with my clock, which I doubt. I know there is somebody who comes in and gets in my closet and takes clothes in, but I don't think he messes with the clock too. Don't you ever think that? You get up, and these fit yesterday. Somebody got in here and altered my clothes again. If we can simply pick some moments out of that 24 hours that we're each given to make Sabbath time a priority. And Sabbath simply means, Sabbath is actually, it means a space apart. A space apart. Jesus said, go apart from the world to pray and to meditate and to think. And we go, and he went apart, and we go apart from the world so that we can simply be. And most of us don't do that, and I don't do it all the time, even though not only do I know the advantages, I require it. I have the personality type that can come out here and stand in front of you and talk, and then I have to go hide. I have to balance the outward time with the inward time, or I get really strange. Just ask Mark, he can tell you. I can still find myself wasting time window shopping on the internet, or going way deeper into Facebook than it deserves, or watching something on Netflix or whatever. What I have to do is to move that appointment up on my priority list and decide that I'm going to give myself that time no matter what. No matter what. It's like they say about exercise. If you really want to get fit, you have to make yourself time to exercise often enough, or it doesn't work. If you only do it once a week, it helps a little bit, but more often than not, you hurt yourself. At least I do when I go too long without it. The deal is that in order to be all that we came here to be, in order to love and be kind to the world, in order to grow spiritually and emotionally, in order to flourish and bloom and blossom, we have to take this time. We have to give ourselves this time to spend on ourselves. We have to get away from the busyness of life, because no one can explore your inner verse besides you. And no one can find out what your unanswered questions are besides you. And no one can understand your thinking habits besides you. And no one can see how you can become more loving and kind besides you. We have to take what we do on Sunday and allow it to sit for a while within, and allow ourselves to contemplate it a little bit. Like, how can I use that? How can I be more loving? How can I be more kind? How can I love myself better? So my intention for 2014, I don't do resolutions because I think by definition you fail, right? Resolutions fall apart. My intention for 2014 is simply to go to bed earlier and get up earlier, because then I have the time. I have the time to do Sabbath, my Sabbath time every morning. I have the time to exercise. I have the time to spend a minute having coffee with my husband and still get to work at a reasonable time. I think if I will do that one thing, a whole lot of good will come of it, because I know that when I spend the time communing with Spirit, I have more to give you. I have more patience, more kindness, more time, more energy, more of all of that. When I spend time communing with Spirit, it's much easier for me to walk in the outside world and keep the high watch, not get dragged down by what's around me. When I spend the time communing with Spirit, I know that I am one with you, and you are one with me, and we are one with all that is. When I take that time to simply be, then I have a sense of comfort in my own skin that's very easy to lose when we get caught up in the busyness. Just to be comfortable with who I am and respect myself and love myself a little bit. So I invite you this new year to set an intention with me to make 2014 your year of loving kindness. Your year where you give yourself the time to go apart, where you give yourself the time to meditate or journal or vision or listen deeply, whatever it is that works best for you. To sit on the cushion until your mind slows down. To sit on the cushion until it feels like you can sit there a little longer instead of, oh my God, I'm going to go crazy. To start with walking meditation, whatever it is that works. And to think about what you really want to do in 2014. Is there a service project you'd like to get involved in? Is there a neighbor to whom you owe an apology? Is there someone who could just really use your love and your kindness? And then set your intention from there to do that, and to give yourself the time that you need to be ready to do it. If you've owed someone an apology for a long time, it takes some quiet time to get ready to go and apologize. Sometimes it takes time to discern where best our particular skills can be used. So I invite you to just set your intention to give yourself the most precious gift you possibly can, and that is simply time away from the busy, time away from the busyness of life, away from the doing of life, time in the being. Time to be still and know that you are the divine showing up right where you are. Time to experience, as the Buddha said, that heart deliverance that comes from loving kindness as a way of life. So that's my invitation for you this year, and along with my wishes for a wonderful week of celebration, of letting go and picking up, of change and of fellowship, I hope, time spent with loved ones, all that. And right now I invite you to simply allow your awareness to fall into that deep place within you. That deep place that is the place you connect with all that exists. Where there is always peace. Where there is great joy, no matter what's happening on the outside. Where there is this beautiful spark of life within you. Because it is in that place that we can hear the still small voice that some call their higher self, that some call God, that some call intuition. Whatever it is the voice that will help us with those unanswerable questions, with those deep issues of who am I? Where do I belong? How do I best be who I came here to be? And it is also that voice that reminds us of the truth of our being, that we are always, always, always deeply and profoundly loved, that we are always supplied, that we are plugged in to the universe, and that the universe says yes to us because of this boundless, infinite love that sustains us and in which we live and move and have our being. And so I simply know for each one of us that this new year is a time of great awakening, of setting down easily that which no longer serves us, that which keeps us small, and a time of amazing transition into a new way of being, into a greater expression of ourself, our real self, of transition into a time of more joy and more happiness, more health and more abundance, more connection, more love, more kindness. And because I know this is the truth about who we are, I simply say thank you. I rest in gratitude for life itself, for each person here, for this community, for all that it brings to my life and to the world. From this place of gratitude, I release, I let go, I remember that it is not I, but that creative power and presence that Jesus called the Father that does the work. And so I let it go and trust that it is so. And we anchor it by saying together, and so it is.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you are anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you are less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How deeply you're connected to my soul.
We now have an opportunity to not only observe the law of circulation and put ourselves out into that flow of life, but also to express our gratitude for this spiritual community by supporting it. We are here, we do what we do, we provide what we provide solely because you contribute, and I thank you for that. I thank you for that. I invite you to take your gift in your hand or your heart and simply let yourself be filled with gratitude for all that you have been given and blessed with. There is so much. Just getting out of bed some days is enough to be grateful, deeply grateful for. And know with me, my gift goes forth to bless and to prosper.
My gift goes forth to bless and to prosper.
It does its good and perfect work.
It does its good and perfect work.
And returns to me multiplied abundantly.
And returns to me multiplied abundantly.
I am grateful.
I am grateful.
And so it is.
So it is.